Hello everybody. Today my presentation is on the topic of lazy loading images. So we all know that images make up a huge part of the web. About 65% of all web content is made up of images. A few weeks ago we learned how to optimize our images using Photoshop or other programs so that the file sizes aren't so big. However, many websites, even though their images are optimized, still contain many images, and load times can still take a while, and visitors are impatient in today's world. Everybody wants everything right now, right away. So what is lazy loading? Well, it's basically loading images on your websites asynchronously. What is asynchronous? Well, it's basically not synchronous. It means that the images can load at different times. And so there are two ways to do this. You could load the rest of your page after the above the fold content is fully loaded, what the user is seeing in their, in their screen initially, or you could do it conditionally. And this only loads the image when it is going to appear in the viewport, the browser's viewport. So, for example, if somebody gets onto a web page but they never scroll down to the bottom where you have additional content, it's never even going to load those images because they never would have seen them anyway. So why should we use this technique? Well, we already kind of talked about it, but users are impatient. 47% of visitors expect a website to load in less than 2 seconds. 2 seconds is not very long. And 40% of visitors will leave a website if the loading process takes more than 3 seconds. Also, a lot of people browse the web on their phone, and not everybody has an unlimited data plan. And so we're helping our users out and our viewers out by not making them use more data than they need to. So we all know or have seen examples of websites that do this. Perhaps we didn't realize it, but we see it all the time. We see it with Unsplash.com, where you can, go and find royalty-free images, and we see it in Instagram as well. So here I am on Unsplash.com, and we're going to see if we can see this lazy loading in effect. So I'm just going to search for horses, and as I scroll down, there should be, boxes as placeholders. And hopefully those images will just lazy load into those. So I'm going to start scrolling down here, and looks like my connection's pretty good today. It's loading these really quickly, but we kind of see that how it jumps, and you see those gray boxes, and then they fill with those images. So how can we do this? How can we lazy load our images in our web pages? Well, there are several different approaches. But in this video, we're going to focus on how this can be done with JavaScript and loading these images conditionally, meaning as we scroll down that they load. And I'm going to use methods that are provided by Google's Web Fundamentals Guide. Here I've opened up a CodePen where hopefully we'll be able to lazy load some images. So from what I've found, it seems that one of the easier and more efficient ways of doing this is by using an intersection observer. What this allows us to do is track when an element in our document object model enters the visible viewport. The intersection observer is easier to use and read than code relying on various event handlers like a scroll, because developers only need to register an observer to watch elements rather than writing tedious element visibility detection code. So all that's left to do for the developer is to decide what to do when an element is visible. So a quick little disclaimer, the intersection observer is not supported in all browsers, but as you can see here, it is supported in Edge, Firefox, and Chrome. If you do need to design something for a different browser like Safari, then there are other methods to do this. In looking at this markup, we're going to focus on 3 relevant pieces. So the first piece we want to look at is the class attribute. And what this is going to do is it's going to select the element with our JavaScript. So in this case, our class is going to be lazy. And if I've applied this to the different images that we're going to be using here. The second focus of our markup that we're going to be looking at is the source attribute. What this does is references a placeholder image that will appear when the page first loads. So, as we can see, I've chosen this right here to be my placeholder image. And so what I did for this is I went and I found a royalty-free image that was blurred out. And what you can do is you can optimize this image so that it's really small, and you can have it occupy, a box or some space where you're going to display your image. And then once it loads once, it's already in the cache of the browser, so it doesn't have to be loaded every time you scroll down. So as we scroll down, we're going to see that before the actual image loads, we'll have this placeholder image in its place. The third piece of our markup that we want to focus on is the data source and the data source set attributes. These are placeholder attributes containing the URL for the image will load once the element is in the viewport. But, well, let's look at those real quick. So these are right here. Okay, so what I've done is I've commented out our JavaScript. So what should happen here is in this HTML, I've put a small heading, just some filler text here, and then it displays our image. And so the placeholder is going to be this blurred out image right here. So as I scroll down, because we're not using any lazy loading image techniques yet, it's just going to be showing my placeholder image as I go down here for all 6 of my images. And this is kind of a common thing, to just take an image, blur it out, and put it as a placeholder. A blurred out image has kind of become the universal indicator of an image that will be loaded. I think it looks better than not having anything there at all. If you want to kind of look around and find one that you like, there are, I'm sure, lots of different ones that you could use. Just looking down here, it looks like we've got some good candidates, where this one would probably do a good job there. Oh, I like this one too. So keep in mind that you can do this however you want, but I just think that having a blurred image or something to occupy that spot looks a little bit better than not having anything there at all. Back in CodePen, we've got our content here. So this is just saying, okay, this is going to be the picture of Mountain 1 with some text, and then it's going to display right here that placeholder image. And then after our JavaScript runs, it should replace that with our actual image. And so I don't have anything too fancy here. It just kind of repeats itself for 6 images as we scroll down. The CSS isn't anything all that fancy. It's just to kind of center everything, give it a little padding, give it a margin. And as we see, we've still got our JavaScript still commented out. So we're just seeing this placeholder image right now. I'm going to now uncomment the JavaScript, and we're going to see how this affects our page. Okay, now, so what should happen is as I scroll down, we should initially see our blurred out placeholder image, and then it should quickly turn to the actual image. So I'm going to start scrolling down here, and we see how, okay, there we go. So we saw right there, and as I scroll down, it changes on us. So it looks like it's working. Just to reiterate, what this is doing is it is only loading these images when they enter the viewport. Otherwise, it's just that placeholder image in all of those spots. So if we look here at the JavaScript, on the document's DOM content loaded event, this script queries the document object model for all of the image elements with a class of lazy, which we gave them over here. So if Intersection Observer is available, which it is on the major browsers of Chrome, Firefox, and Edge, then we're able to use this. We create a new observer that runs a callback when all of these lazy class elements enter the viewport. Well, it's really kind of cool. It's efficient how it works. I'll leave a link to this JavaScript so you look at it and you can use it in your code if you'd like to. The method we just saw to lazy load images used the intersection observer, and Google developers argue that we should use this method. However, if you need to do this for a different browser like Safari, there are other ways to do it using event handlers. They are a little bit more complicated. The JavaScript is a little bit longer. A lot of people use APIs to lazy load their images because they are just designed in a very efficient and effective way, and you don't necessarily have to worry about all of these small details because somebody has already perfected it. If you want to learn more about what the Google developers have to say about best practices, you can check out this first link here. The SitePoint link gives 5 different techniques that you can use on your web pages to lazy load the images. They provide some really well-known APIs. And if you want to fiddle around with the CodePen that we used in the example today, that's this link right here. Thank you for watching the video, and leave any comments or questions in the discussion board.